look at the way human beings are actually constructed anatomically, and if you look at our physiology, we are truly strict herbivores. And that's why when we depart from a strictly plant-based diet, we become ill. That's why diets that contain large amounts of animal food are associated with a number of chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, high blood pressure, stroke. The more we eliminate animal foods from our diet, the healthier we are. And again, it has to do with the fact that we are really designed to eat a strictly plant-based diet.
Yeah. And I guess for the people that want to know how specifically we're designed anatomically to eat plants, you just have to look at our physiology, like the jaw structure, the stomach acidity, the length of our intestine, stuff like that. What do you say, though, to the people that say that might be true, but the only reason we're here today is because we ate meat back in the day and we survived because of meat? What do you say to that?
There are a number of people who have advanced these theories, and number one, none of the people putting forth those theories are physicians. And the reason I make that point is because if they understood what meat does to our health and to our physiology, they would never make that argument. First of all, there is no way that Stone Age humans could possibly hunt efficiently enough to gather enough animal food to make that their primary means of gaining nutrition, number one. Number two, people have come up with theories saying, oh, well, okay, yeah, it's clear that humans couldn't hunt well enough to collect enough meat to live off of, so human beings scavenge. Well, that's a ridiculous statement, because it's clear that we do not have the physiology of a scavenger. I mean, at least in America, every Thanksgiving, people get sick from eating poorly cooked turkey. And that's a turkey cooked in a, $1,000 stainless steel range that has temperature control. There's no way people eating rotting flesh, burned in some fire could possibly hope to sterilize that flesh well enough to prevent themselves from becoming ill. So we clearly are not scavengers. Furthermore, most large savanna predators don't leave enough tissue on their kills to scavenge. And if there is food left, they guard those kills jealously and don't allow other animals, including humans, to actually come and try to scavenge from them. And then lastly, there really is no advantage in human beings eating large amounts of protein. There is no point to consuming huge amounts of protein because it's not healthy for us. Number one, the human brain is mostly fatty tissue. It burns pure glucose, which comes from carbohydrate. Protein is not the preferred energy source for our brain. So eating huge amounts of protein is not helpful for us because our bodies can't store protein. And so any protein that we take in over and above what we use on a daily basis, which is approximately, say, 50 to 60 grams of protein on a given day, is converted into carbohydrate anyway. And that process of converting that protein into carbohydrate is very energetically costly. It dehydrates us, and therefore it doesn't pay for us to try to eat huge amounts of protein because it saps too much energy, uses up too much water, and doesn't get us any physiologic benefit. So again, it doesn't make sense that humans would have wasted a lot of energy looking for protein that doesn't help us. And there's a researcher out of UC Berkeley by the name of Catherine Milton, who has this absurd theory that meat caused humans to develop large brains. Number one, it's an illogical argument. It makes no sense whatsoever for the reasons that I just outlined. There's nothing about meat that in any way stimulates brain development. And if, in fact, eating meat or hunting stimulated brain development, then the carnivores would have the biggest brains of all animals, and they don't. And which is why if you have a dog, he still drinks from the toilet. They're not very bright. So yeah, there's nothing about meat that in any way is important for brain development or brain function. In fact, in terms of the intelligence, it requires much more intelligence to learn how to exploit plant-based resources in an environment. Because number one, you have to be able to recognize, wait a minute, these plants over here are flowering. That means that in approximately 90 days, these plants are going to be fruiting. So I have to, one, remember where these plants are in the environment. I have to be able to tell time so I can come back and then collect these fruits when they're available, and then take these fruits and cache them so that I will have a source of food that's going to last me for a period of time. And not only that, once you recognize that dynamic, that a flower ultimately leads to fruit, you can then apply that to not just say an apple tree or a peach tree. You can recognize the flower on a squash plant. Say, oh goodness, I can come back and look for something to eat in a month or two from this plant. And that will then allow you to exploit a much wider range of food throughout your environment than just being held to just this tree or this food source or that food source. And again, that requires a much greater intellectual ability to make those kinds of connections and to be able to exploit those sort of food resources throughout your environment than just trying to chase something and kill it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because from what you just said, it's made me realize, like, the reason plants are so colorful, for example, fruit and veg, it's so bright to the human eye, is because humans are natural herbivores. We're designed to eat these foods. I'm just wondering whether there's any other evidence like this that clearly shows we're natural herbivores.
If you think about plants, the edible plant parts are hand-sized objects that are smooth-edged, brightly colored, and they're small enough to be held in the hand, and of course they smell and taste like plants. So what do we do to animal tissue to make it acceptable to us? We take it, we skin it, we cut it into these smooth-edged, hand-sized objects. We then take the blood out of it, we cook it so that instead of being wet and slimy, it's now firm like plant tissues. But most importantly, we cover it with all of these plant products to try and make it taste like plants, which is what our brain really wants. So we really don't want the animal tissue, because if we did, we eat it the way the carnivores do. Wet, slimy, bloody, and rotting. No, we take it and try to make it look and taste and smell like plants in order to make it acceptable. Furthermore, the fact that we actually cover ourselves with the scents of plants to make ourselves more attractive tells us that plants have always been important throughout our existence as a species. And the reason we like to smell like plants is because that is a subtle signal to our brain that we have been ingesting the compounds that actually make us healthier, make us live longer, and make us more resistant to disease.
Yeah, I guess it makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure, like, most people would agree. Some people, though, the naysayers and the critics would say, what about B12, though? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're going to ignore all the heart disease, all the cancer, all the diabetes, and all of that. We're just going to talk about B12. Well, okay, let's talk about B12. All B12 is made by bacteria. That no animal makes B12, no plant makes B12. And when human beings were living in more natural settings, we got B12 all the time from the dirt, from water sources, from, many things in our environment. But where do we live now? We live in these concrete and steel jungles that we've invented for ourselves. So we've eliminated the natural sources of B12.